The Genesis flood is described as a global reset, a catastrophic event specifically intended to remove every trace of a corrupted biological bloodline and the violence that came with it. The biblical account claims the destruction was absolute. Every living thing on dry land died, leaving only 8 human survivors sealed within a single vessel. Genesis specifies that Noah was chosen because he was perfect in his generations. His lineage remained biologically distinct, entirely untouched by the genetic corruption that had overtaken the rest of the world. By the time the waters receded, the earth was meant to be biologically clean. Every trace of the hybrid giants should have been erased. Centuries later, the Israelites reached the border of Canaan, and the records of their scouts tell a different story. The 12 spies sent to survey the land returned with a report of a terrifying discovery. They found the Nephilim. To the scouts, these giants were so large that the Israelites appeared as small as grasshoppers in their sight. The text describes physical evidence of these post-flood giants that strains modern imagination, like King Og of Bashan, whose iron bed reached a length of 13 feet. Generations later, the record introduces Goliath of Gath, a warrior standing nearly 10 feet tall, armored in over 100 pounds of bronze. If the flood was a total purge intended to save only Noah's pure lineage, we have to account for how this species was standing in the Promised Land centuries later. Finding the answer requires looking back to the origin of these giants in Enoch's era. The ancient accounts describe a rebellion on the slopes of Mount Hermon. 200 fallen angels, known as the Watchers, descended to this peak to defy the boundaries of heaven. These beings mated with human women, creating the hybrid species known as the Nephilim, emerging of celestial and human nature that violated creation's order. These giants reportedly terrorized the population, while the fallen angels introduced humanity to forbidden technologies, the art of weapon forging, the secrets of the stars, and the practice of brutal warfare. This genetic and social corruption was the specific reason the flood was deployed, to erase the world and start over. But Genesis 6:4 contains an unsettling detail. The Nephilim were on the earth also afterward. This suggests corrupted DNA bypassed the floodwaters, perhaps carried on the ark through Noah's son Ham. Following his post-flood transgression, the resulting curse fell directly upon his son Canaan. Historically, the land of Canaan became the geographical stronghold where the giants re-established their presence. Another theory proposes a second, separate incursion, where a new group of fallen angels repeated the same rebellion after the floodwaters receded. Whether a biological loophole or a second invasion, the result was the same. Humanity found themselves sharing the world with monsters once again. The battles recorded in the Old Testament follow a specific pattern. They describe a systematic effort to target and eliminate these surviving Nephilim bloodlines. Joshua and Caleb led their forces into the Canaanite highlands to find the Anakim, descendants of ancient giants in fortified mountain cities. They broke these strongholds, destroying their society and forcing survivors into isolated pockets like Gath. The defeat of King Og marked the end of the giants' ability to rule vast kingdoms. Humanity had finally moved from merely surviving these giants to actively hunting them, continuing the vital work that the flood began. The historical record eventually leads to the city of Gath, where the final members of this lineage held their ground. Goliath challenged the Israelites for 40 days. He stood nearly 10 feet tall, armored in bronze, but was answered by David, a young shepherd with a sling and stones from a nearby stream. David's victory removed the final obstacle of fear, leading to a relentless, coordinated campaign to track down the remaining remnants. David's soldiers eventually located and killed the last of Goliath's brothers, including a warrior noted for having 6 fingers on his hands and 6 toes per foot. This targeted effort across several generations finally ended the Nephilim presence on Earth. These beings survived a global deluge, but they could not survive a generation of humans who decided to face them. In the end, it was individual courage and faith, rather than divine weather, that closed the door on the giants forever.